Ooh, perfect landing. Welcome back to the Signet podcast. Today I interview Brian SHIRKEN, a sophisticated real estate owner. Please leave below some comments so I know what you're thinking, what questions you'd like to ask. Thanks for watching, and thank you for being a part of our community here.
Go ahead, take a picture.
Right, here we go. Thanks for having me in Park City. It is absolutely beautiful here. I wish the cameras could see, which I guess I'll take a video after, of how green and absolutely marvelous this area is, if that's a word people still use.
Yes, it's beautiful here. We absolutely love it, which is why we spend as much time as we do here.
Yeah, you said your wife works with you and you do she did the design here?
Yeah, so she really built this house. She built 6 homes in Park City, and we really didn't come out here to develop real estate. We came here to build a second home, and we had such a great time building the first second home, that we decided to build a second spec home, and ultimately Kirsten became a home builder. She built 6 homes and sold 6 homes, and this is the third one.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, well, it is absolutely amazing. So I was curious about your entrepreneurial ventures when you were younger. Was real estate really your first way of exploring, investing, or did you do anything before real estate?
Well, I really didn't know anything about real estate when I first came out here. I immigrated to the United States in 1983 from South Africa to work for an accounting firm.
Wow.
I knew a little bit about accounting. That's what I studied in college at the University of Cape Town. But what public accounting did for me is it exposed me to lots of different industries. I had clients in manufacturing and distribution and retail and restaurant and real estate. And of all of the clients I had, the real estate ones were the most interesting. I liked the idea of building things, of creating value. When I decided it was time to move on from public accounting, I focused on real estate and ended up getting an opportunity to go work for really a legend in the real estate business at the time, a gentleman by the name of Sam Freshman, who I worked with for 8 years, who really taught me the real estate business, and I loved it. But even when I was working for Sam, he gave me the space to buy small apartment buildings and renovate them and sell them, and so my entrepreneurial spirit was strong even in the very beginning of being an employee for a real estate company.
Okay. Yeah, it's incredible, your story. Part of it was when you first had your first deal that you were going off on your own to do, you went to 100 people, and the last person said yes when you went to New York and you met with that group and the 300,000 square foot Columbus property. That
is correct. So, yeah, it was 1994, and for those of the people that are watching this that weren't around in 1994, it had quite a lot of similarities to 2008. The world had come to an end. It felt at the time like it was never going to recover. There was no capital in the market, and a lot of people thought we were pursuing the impossible. And actually, the investor I thought I had, by the time I got back to LA from New York, had actually changed their mind and decided not to do the transaction. But fortunately, we were talking to another New York group, and they kept moving forward and ended up becoming our partner. But it really goes to perseverance and having no choice but to succeed. I had no job. I had no income. Mm-hmm. We were absolutely determined to succeed in buying our first property, and you learn to accept rejection and learn from the rejections and adapt your presentation to what it is that people are objecting to, and with the belief that what you have is viable and is going to deliver attractive risk-adjusted returns. And we just kept going. We had no choice.
Right. No, it is inspiring, that, and also you mentioned something about the entrepreneurial lifestyle, about it being high risk, high reward, and not necessarily safe and stable when you're starting out, and that it's not made for everybody. And maybe that's why you have investors that invest with you, because they trust you. They know that you come with the expertise, the track record, and the dependency on on your professional,
Well,
skills?
at this point we do, obviously, but 30 years ago when we started,
Right.
we didn't. We just had belief and passion and conviction, and we were able to convey that. But for the first 5 years, we were investing in real estate and really focused on redeveloping shopping centers at the time. We weren't really sure that we even had a business. I mean, we had a series of deals. We were hopeful that they would be successful, which they were, because as it turned out, it was a very good time to be buying real estate in retrospect. And as I look back at it, I think the only mistake we made was not buying more. But when you're in the middle of it, it feels very different. The environment is negative. People are being wiped out. Tenants aren't leasing space. But as you look back on it, it was almost obvious that it would recover, and it did. And it turned out that our conviction was accurate, and it gave us the ability to build a track record and build some success, and also put us in a position where we could co-invest with our investors in our deals, which is very important. When people are making an investment decision, they need to have alignment with their partner, and co-investment is the biggest part of that alignment.
That makes sense. So skin in the game,
Skin
as we call it.
Exactly. It's really important. And today we're the biggest investor in all of our deals, but we've never forgotten our investors. So we continue to bring in the same investors that we were bringing in 25 years ago, but they come in at a whole different level today.
Right.
So I think part of the lesson from that is that people who are able to invest small amounts of money over time are able to invest larger amounts of money, and then eventually significant amounts of money. And for us, we've really been able to build a business around our investor base, who has grown with us as we have grown. But through building the trust, obviously delivering good performance, standing behind our deals, etc.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting about your deals, and you were talking about retail, and before this we were talking about a hotel that you've developed, is that you have such a diverse spectrum of real estate assets. You have assisted living, student housing, which I wanted to ask how you got into that. You have, hotel, condo, homes, and retail, A, B, and C. So how do you network with brokers, or get the word out there that brokers sometimes need to be told exactly what you want? How do you do that, where you find these opportunities?
So the real estate business is cyclical, and the good thing about being an entrepreneurial real estate investment company is that we're not really locked into any one category of real estate, and we're able to move around as the opportunities present themselves in different areas. So for example, in the late 2000s, we stopped buying. Everything felt expensive. 2011-12, when we started to become exposed to future negative consequences of retail as a result of the internet, we thought it would be a good idea to reposition our business away from retail and into a investment category that was really underappreciated at the time, which was student housing.
Okay.
And I won't say that we went out and researched every category of real estate and decided student was the best, but we were delivered a student opportunity by a partner of ours, and as we dug into it, we concluded that the entire category was mispriced, and we really bought as much student housing as we could, starting in 2011, and then in about 2015 or 16, when everybody else caught on to it, and it became too expensive to buy, we started building, brought in a development team, and then it became too expensive to build, and we just continued to operate. So it's I think it's important to continue to evaluate where you are in a cycle, both generally and globally, and also with respect to the category you're in, and ensure that you're receiving returns that are adequate given the level of risk you're taking and the level of effort. And we're able to look at other investment areas from the same perspective. But even, the condos or hotels that we've built and are building in Park City, it wasn't like we came here strategically to do that. It was an opportunity that arose as a result of kind of unrelated circumstances. In Park City, it was us building a second home and being exposed to opportunities in single-family home development, and then opportunities to acquire land in a distressed market, and that land exposing us to other land, which exposed us to, different areas of opportunity. So a lot of it isn't strategic, it's opportunistic, but it's being able to recognize the opportunity when it arises, and then to have the confidence and to build the team around it. So, I'm not an expert at building a hotel or operating a hotel, but when we decided to do it, we assembled a team of people who were experts that enabled us to rely on our own strengths and draw on theirs.
To go from, different types of asset classes, it's like, starting to dig a new hole from scratch, because you have so much education you have to do, but also to do it in different cities, that seems to be even more of you've really gone through, you must love the process.
Well, you do, and you have to. I mean, I meet a lot of younger people coming into the real estate business, and, they all ask the same question, what should I do if I want to succeed? And, the most important thing, I think, is to follow your passion, because if you're not passionate about it and you're not excited about it, and it's very difficult to succeed in it. And, to be honest, my passion for retail diminished, and it just became difficult to, constantly be getting your ass kicked by retailers who had all the power. So at a point in time when it becomes less fun and less interesting, and it makes sense to start looking at other opportunities. We've always had a national platform in terms of how we've operated our business, and so we're not afraid to go into different markets where we haven't had experience and really learn and understand those markets. And I think the same applies to different property types. We're not afraid to really dig in deep and understand the playing field and the players, and start to build the relationships. But it takes a lot of effort. It doesn't just happen. When we decided to fully commit to student, it took a lot of effort to get the confidence of the brokerage community, to get access to the best opportunities. But I've always felt that if you tell people what you're going to do and then just do it, and you become reliable and honest and display integrity, I mean, those are the people that professionals in the space want to work with. And so when we came to student, it wasn't like we were starting from scratch. I mean, we'd bought hundreds of millions of dollars of shopping centers, and the same principles apply. So so what we do is we take the learning from everything we've ever done and apply it to what we're doing, and there are a lot of parallels.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love seeing that. You are very entrepreneurial. You started, Mountain Pacific, and it focuses on, I think, on QOZ zones, opportunity zones.
That is correct.
How come, I was told this saying a long time ago, the tail shouldn't wag the dog. I could see how somebody would say that QOZ zones are that, but they're not also, because I know that opportunity zones, you save a ton in taxes. The gains, I think it's tax-free if you hold an asset for 10 years. Not a CPA, I don't know these things, but supposedly, theoretically, I believe that's the essence of why people want to invest in these opportunity zones. What attracts you to that?
So one of the other businesses we have is one that provides equity for the development of multifamily properties. It's a business called Mountain Capital Partners, and through that business, we invested in the construction of about 3,500 apartment units in the western states. We started to sell off those properties about 3 years ago, and the opportunity zone timing was consistent with what was happening in our business at that time. Number one, we were selling off a lot of properties, and we had gains that we were looking to reinvest. Number two, we'd had a lot of experience providing capital for multifamily development, and opportunity zones were the intersection of both a need and a skill set. But we look at the opportunity zone business a little differently. The deal needs to stand on its own independently of the tax benefits. I think you'll generally accept somewhat of a lower return because of the economic value of the tax benefits, but it still needs to be a viable real estate deal. We have a very high level of comfort in multifamily housing, and the fact that over time we've seen a pretty significant shortage of supply with growing demand, so the fundamentals are very strong. Just by definition, there's a tremendous amount of value created through the development process. But the scale of the business is not really what we had hoped. With the escalation of construction costs and then the impact of COVID and its impact on rental growth, it hasn't been that easy to find ground-up deals that make a lot of sense. I think we're doing about a dozen opportunity zone development deals right now.
Okay.
And I'm very comfortable with the deals that we've done, but it's become more and more difficult to find projects that meet our return criteria given the risk. But I like the business. I like the fact that we're developing housing in areas that have a shortage of housing.
Yeah.
And in areas that are really up and coming, and where over time you know that the environment will catch up with the project that we're developing. We have to, for the most part, hold these properties for 10 years, and we're comfortable being a long-term investor in these projects, and we know that the environments that we're building in are going to see significant change over that period of time as well.
Okay. When you look for deals, it seems, how do you compete with other people, or how do you advise somebody who is smaller to compete with other buyers? You know, there's so much capital now going towards real estate that it seems like it's hard to find deals that do have the returns that, you know, you'd be looking for.
So my advice is always to find the niche in which you have an expertise that differentiates you from everybody else, because the only way to really deliver returns that are in excess of what you should be getting given the risk you're taking is to know something that not everybody else knows, or have a skill set or expertise or a perspective or vision or that you can convey that is different from others. So not to be afraid to go contrary to the market or go into a property type that is less popular, or a geographic area that is less populous. So there has to be a differentiation. Just duplicating somebody else's strategy, I don't think, adds much value.
Right.
On the other hand, when you're in a good market like the one we've been in over the last 10 years, it's difficult to fail.
Right.
So it makes everybody look good, but the reality of it is that nothing grows to the sky, and at some point we're going to see some kind of adjustment, and when the tide goes out, then you start to see the people who are exposed. So you got to be careful, and you got to be careful not to get caught up in market success, which is differentiated from individual success, and to try to understand how much of your success has come from market growth or rental growth, and how much of it has come from your own original ideas and vision and concept, etc. And
intuition. That was something I was wondering about. How do you learn to trust your intuition? And not everybody's intuition is, on point with you're putting money at risk. How do you find that?
Well, it's not always about intuition. I mean, oftentimes it's just about experience.
Right.
And the example I will give is we came back into the market very heavily in 2010. And a lot of people thought it was too early, and a lot of people thought markets may never recover, which seems like a silly thought at this time, but we felt like we'd seen it before. So we thought we'd seen the same thing in 1994, recognizing that the only mistake we'd made then was not buying more. The other thing we saw we knew in 2010-11 is that our housing assets had recovered much more quickly than our commercial assets. So housing felt like a much better sector
Right.
to come into based on the recovery that we'd seen in our portfolio. So I would say we depended much less on intuition than we did on experience. But even then, we had to take some leap of faith because we were going against the market. The market wasn't buying yet.
Right.
The market was still desperate to find a bottom. So I think it was really a function of our experience, a function of our track record, our ability to, raise equity and debt, and also to co-invest, because that's what gave our partners confidence in the fact that we believed very strongly in what we were executing on. Now, we've invested with a lot of partners over the last 4 or 5 years that have gone into markets that we were not in. For example, we've bought, I don't know, maybe a dozen multifamily assets in the Phoenix market,
Okay.
with a partner who had a very strong view on the market and brought us around to their view, and then we began to invest very heavily with them. So they had a unique perspective on the market. They developed the ability to execute very effectively and efficiently, and 3 years later, everybody else was doing what they were doing, but the real money is made in that time period where you're ahead of the rest of the world.
Interesting. It's the buy when everybody's scared, or be greedy when everybody's scared, and yeah, it is interesting. I was gonna say you're a sucker for stress because you just love the adventure, but it's got to take its toll on your. You got to put your heart and soul into learning all these new skills, different asset classes. You've come a long way.
Yeah, so I'd say the difference today is that we're really not in the business of doing deals. We're in the business of building businesses. And I'd say that's the differentiation today. So when we looked at student housing 10, 11 years ago, it wasn't with the idea that we'd go out and buy a deal or 2 deals. It was with the idea that we would build a business. And when you build a business, you create infrastructure and resources and expertise outside of yourself, and you're able to remove yourself from the day-to-day stresses associated with that business, and hopefully get to a point where no one asset really makes a difference.
Right.
So, for example, today we own close to 10,000 student housing beds, and maybe a dozen different markets, and we own a management company that manages our properties. They have close to 250 employees, but none of them report to me. They all report to my partner, who runs the operations of our student housing business, and so he deals with the day-to-day stress of dealing with the tenants, and dealing with the move-ins and move-outs and turns and parents and complaints. And so the advantage of building a business is that you're able to create enough scale that you can put human infrastructure in place that brings an expertise that you don't have, and is able to absorb the stress of the day-to-day issues that you don't have to absorb. And the same applies to even buying properties. There's no one property that we're buying today that we have to buy or that really makes a difference. I have an acquisitions team that is out chasing multiple assets. We win, we lose. In the beginning, if I was pursuing one deal and I lost that deal, that was devastating.
Right.
But over the last 15 years or so, it's been really about these businesses and these platforms. So we have the student housing platform, I have the value-add investing platform, we have the ground-up development and opportunity zone platform, we have the Park City platform, we have the retail platform, and these businesses really operate independently of each other, and they're all run by partners. So we're a big believer, or I'm a big believer in alignment. So I'd much rather bring in a partner or sponsor a partner to run a business for me and give them a significant portion of the ownership to create alignment than have to be involved in the day-to-day operation of the business, which is really what enables us to keep our sanity. I mean, if we were dealing with all the day-to-day issues of all these businesses, you're right, I think it would be overwhelming.
Yeah, the quality control, that's a lot to have to put your head on a pillow at night and not think about.
It's all about the people, as it is with everything. So, you got to be able to trust your people and your partners and allow them to execute and engage where you can add value. which is the way we've set up our businesses today.
How do you add value? Is it improvements or changing leases?
So I'd say that my involvement is at a much higher level. It's really trying to understand where the strategic opportunities are, and try to help my partners in the vision, both in terms of figuring out where to direct their activities, and also on the capital side. I'm the primary provider of capital to the business, and have most of the capital relationships and lender relationships. So that's my primary involvement.
Speaking of lenders, I was wondering, how do you utilize leverage?
One of the big lessons we learned coming out of the 2008 downturn is that we have really diversified our lenders that we work with, and try to identify the lenders who are best suited for the types of transactions that we're doing. So we work with a lot of different lenders right now, but have core relationships that focus on certain asset types.
What's your favorite project that you found most exciting, challenging, rewarding, not on a financial level, but on more of a personal level?
So in Park City, we've developed a very significant development company that is focused both on developing condominium, hotel, and housing assets in Park City, but is also now focused on developing hospitality and assets in other resort markets. So I'd say in general, it's a very exciting business, and a lot of that is because of the creativity required in the process. So I really came to real estate development at a relatively late stage in my career. I was primarily focused on the real estate investment business until the last 7 or 8 years. And so I really enjoy the process of visioning and creating and conceptualizing. In this market in particular, where we have a very strong personal connection to the community, we've been coming here for close to 30 years. We've had a home here for 13 years now. We understand what's missing here. And we also understood what needed to be created in order to take this entire market, the ski market, to a whole different level, what was missing, and to be engaged in helping to create an environment and an experience that'll change the way people enjoy this mountain is very rewarding. We've also gotten very involved in the community philanthropically and socially, and so this is a very big part of our lives today. The Pendry project is by far the biggest project we've ever done. It's probably the riskiest project we've ever done, but it's also drawn on every skill set that we have. So we've loved the challenge, we've loved the creativity, we've gotten quite fortunate with the market. The project is 100% pre-sold, and it's opening in December. So a lot of the worst or most worrisome components of the risk are now behind us, so we're really beginning to enjoy bringing the project to life, and it will be a living organism. It's very activated. It has 6 restaurants and 153 condominiums and a big retail plaza, and so it's a very exciting project.
That space in the middle of those 3 buildings looks like it would be a great, it would be a nice walking, hangout, retail.
It was really created that way. The buildings were really designed around the outdoor space to create a great opportunity for both the community to engage in the non-ski season by encouraging families to enjoy a very safe, clean, controlled, highly programmed environment with lots of parking that was easily accessible. But also to create a great après ski environment for skiers, a 24/7 experience for people coming into the new ski village that we're creating. So the goals of the project were pretty ambitious. It wasn't just to create a hotel. It's going to create a place that will hopefully play a role in the lives of a lot of people. We're also building and this is a more current project, an employee housing project with 1,100 beds at the base of the Canyons Village, because as these communities grow and the housing becomes more expensive and unaffordable, it's very important to have affordable housing for the employees to live in, where they're not driving long distances every day to get to work. So we're involved in many aspects of housing. We're working on another relatively large mixed-use project in the area. We're working on another boutique hotel, another townhome project, and so our development company is very busy.
Wow. Okay. That's exciting. I mean, just looking at those, you're living my dream life. I mean, that's incredible.
I'm living my dream life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
We spend the majority of our time in Park City now.
Did you think that this would happen when you were getting in real estate? I mean,
No, not at all. I think that the kind of life we've been able to create for our family and is way beyond anything I would have imagined. I always wondered who those people were that had homes on the ski mountain where they could ski out of their back door onto the slope.
Yeah.
I skied past those homes for many years thinking that. Just as I rode my bike around a certain country club in Los Angeles wondering who those members were and how they ever got to a place where they could become a member. But that's one of the great things about real estate. It does provide opportunities to accomplish goals that you could never imagine.
Do you have like 3 key daily habits that sort of help set your day and helps you in the right mindset to succeed?
I'm not sure. My life is not structured in that way. I mean, the first thing is I've got to figure out what city I'm waking up in. We live in different places, and in different places I have different habits. Work is a big part of my life, but so is my family. So we now have the freedom to do a lot of things that we weren't able to do as we were building the business. So I think we put a lot of effort into enjoying the results of what we've accomplished, but also giving back. We're very involved in community and philanthropically, and it's a very big part of our life, not just writing checks, but getting very involved in helping our community organizations accomplish their goals, because we've developed a lot of skills over the years, which we think we can bring to the not-for-profit world, and in fact, which we're actively doing.
How are you doing that? Just curious, because you were involved with the Federation and the leadership. I think that was a great program.
Yeah, so I'd been very active in the Jewish community in Los Angeles for many years, probably 25 plus years, including being on the board of the Jewish Federation, the Jewish Community Foundation, the board of my temple. And so my involvement in the not-for-profit world has always been as an entrepreneur, as what I'd call a philanthropic entrepreneur. So really not accepting the status quo, but trying to figure out how to build programs or initiatives that best met the needs of the time that we were living in. So, and I'm fortunate because I had really great partners in the not-for-profit world, and we were able to create some really phenomenal programs that have been able to sustain themselves even beyond my involvement. In Park City, we have focused most of our efforts on the immigrant population here, which is a community that I am very sensitive to, particularly the plight of those immigrants who were not able to access public services.
Right.
And particularly in the area of early childhood education, which I've learned in this community is the single biggest need that much of the immigrant population has. So we're in a service economy here, where many parents have multiple jobs, or both parents certainly have a job, and they need to be able to get their children into the educational system, but most of them can't afford to, because there's no public educational system for kids aged 0 to 5. So for them, a lot of it becomes informal. So what we've focused on here is providing the capacity to fill the need of the community. So our goal is to ensure that any pre-K kid has access to early childhood education, because we've seen the consequence of that as kids move through the educational system and really never catch up. Many of whom never catch up from their lack of access to ESL skills or social skills that are developed in those pre-K years.
That's touching. I mean, that's takes a lot of heart. Yeah, that's great. I've seen personally that you created a program that I was a part of that really does open your eyes and expose you to things that, I still feel very fortunate. And I still get the benefits from the program that I went through. So
thank you. So my focus is always on leverage. It's really in the same way that we use leverage in real estate to acquire projects on a much larger scale than we otherwise could. I look to utilize that in the not-for-profit world, and that's really leveraging the resources of not-for-profit organizations, either their capital resources or their expertise or personnel, to create programs that can have an impact significantly beyond what I could do myself. So I was very focused 10 or 12 years ago on the development of leadership in the not-for-profit world and the ability to leverage resources to create leadership programs that would enable people to become better qualified leaders in the not-for-profit world while receiving concurrently a very personal value proposition. Because I've always been of the opinion that people have lots of choices as to what they do with their time or their money, and if you can create the best option for them, that is the one they're going to pick. So they're going to look at the value proposition, but the community benefit is great. The networks that are created, the organizations that end up with young board members and chairs and et cetera. So the benefits can be significant over time, but it has to be impactful, it has to be sustainable, and it has to deliver value. Interesting.
Well, that's all my questions. I really appreciate you meeting with me and having this discussion, and just in general, you've always been an inspiration to me, so thank you.
Well, thanks very much. I really appreciate you coming all the way over here to do this.
Oh, my pleasure.
It doesn't feel like it's been too painful for you either.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, I'm going to be back here a lot.
Great.
So,
well, we love this place and tell people to come visit.
Thanks for watching the Signet podcast. Love bringing this stuff to you, so please hit the like and invest wisely.